Thanks everyone. Tonight we will have offer a lecture about the history background about the icon by my classmate. We both graduated from the same school in the Holy Cross Hellenic College, and she is an iconographer, and she hold a master degree about theology in the Holy Cross, and also right now he's studying another master degree about icon theology. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I will speak Mandarin. 欢迎大家来参加我们这一次的这个讲座。我们是光从东方来的施工呢。我们光从东方来的施工主要就是介绍邀请了解这个东方教会的讲员和信徒来介绍东方教会的传统。今天我们邀请的这位讲员呢，叫做Xenia Franck， 他呢是我的同学哈，我们一起在波士顿的 Holy Cross 这个神学院学习，然后他有一个硕士的神学学位，然后他呢本身是一个圣像师傅就是 iconographer， 所以呢他对在圣像方面有很多的经验。今天他会给我们介绍简单的介绍一下这个圣像的历史圣像的历史的背景就是为什么在这个东正教或者整个东方教会对圣像是接受的一个状态把这个历史呢讲解给大家所以呢这个就是我们现在的状态哈。好，今天的话我们的大概的介绍就到这里。大家如果对这个 Xenia 师母姐妹有更多的问题呢，可以把你们的这个问题留到聊天栏里面然后呢如果你们想进一步的了解我们光从东方来的施工和信息，待会我会把我们的这个连接方式和邮箱呢发到聊天栏里面，然后让大家进一步了解，好吧？You can speak now because you already got your slide, and I will offer simultaneous translations. Yeah, so我们现在开始吧，然后我来翻译，然后你来介绍 ，OK?
Okay, thank you. And did you already introduce me, or do I need to do any introduction of myself?
I'm just very brief, so you can introduce a little more. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jason, for inviting me, and thank you all for coming here and having me. It's a joy to be a part of this ministry.
OK，他说谢谢 Jason， 就是我，然后邀请他来开这个关于圣像的讲座，然后他很高兴呢能够参与这个光从东方来的施工。OK。
I have been painting icons for about 10 years under two different teachers.
他呢就是这个字，他就是画那个圣像呢大概有10年的时间，然后期间呢有2个老师教他。Yeah.
And I did some study during my master's degree in theology on the theology and history of the icon while I was at Holy Cross.
Yeah, 他那个在圣十字架学院的时候呢他学了大概2年的时间关于圣像学方面的知识以及关于如何画这个圣像。
Today, I would like to start talking about the long and rich history of icons in Christianity.
今天我们要来讲一讲关于这个圣像的历史，在历史过程当中的很长的这个形成的背景和过程。
Once we have established the context of iconography within Christianity, then we will continue later on to talk about their purpose and their meaning.
所以呢这个讲座主要是涉及这个圣像的形成的在基督教过程中形成的过程。那么下一次的讲座呢，我们将会讲这个圣像的功能和目的，还有我们的使用哈。Yeah.
Today, all across the world, people are rediscovering the beauty of icons. I have met not only Orthodox people, but Lutherans and Catholics, and even people who are not religious who love icons and want to have them in their homes.
今天呢，很多人对圣像非常的感兴趣哈，不只是东正教，包括路德宗啊、天主教的信徒，甚至有一些非信徒，他们也非常喜欢圣像，他们有的甚至想把圣像呢买来放在家里。
And within the Eastern Orthodox Christian countries, there is also a resurgence of this artwork happening right now with people developing beautiful skills and doing beautiful work all across the Orthodox world right now.
现在在这个东方的这个东正教的这些国家里面呢，这个圣像开始就是复兴吧 ，revergent 开始浮现，然后有很多人呢都开始这个去制作这个圣像然后大家都很喜欢。
So we begin our history with both with a tradition that exists both in the Eastern and the Western worlds of Christianity, that the first Christian images were painted by the Apostle Luke himself.
Okay, can you repeat the first sentence?
Yes. We begin our history
Yeah.
with a tradition that is held by both the East and the West.
Okay, I translate this first. So 我们这个传统呢是这个圣像的传统呢是整个东西方都承认的，东西方的教会都承认的。OK。
And this tradition is that it was the Apostle Luke who painted the first Christian images.
那是这个路加，就是路加福音的作者呢，他画了第一幅这个圣像。
Saint Luke was closer to the Virgin Mary than many of the other apostles, which is why he gives such details in his gospel about the birth of Christ.
那圣路加呢，他那个比其他的使徒更接近这个圣母玛利亚，所以在路加福音当中呢，就对于这个玛利亚就是生这个道成肉身的这个故事呢，写得更加的详细。
While she, the Virgin Mary, was still alive, Saint Luke painted her image and he presented it to her and she blessed it.
So 当这个圣母玛利亚她这个还在世的时候，路加呢就给玛利亚画就是做了一幅画，然后呢玛利亚觉得很高兴啊，受到祝福。
She saw the icon and she said, "May my grace be with this image."
她看见了那个圣像，就说愿我的这个祝福呢跟随着这个圣像。
So here is the very beginning of the tradition of iconography that was began by an apostle and blessed by the mother of Jesus.
那这个就是这个圣像的这个开始啊，就是从这个使徒的路加呢开始的啊，他画的这个圣母的画像，那是圣像，
And the early Christians have been painting the places where they worshipped since the time of the Roman catacombs in the 2nd century.
那么基督徒们其实在第2世纪的时候，他们在那个 catacomb 就是地下墓穴里面就开始做一些这种圣像。
This image that you can see here is from one of the catacombs in Rome called of Marcellinus and Peter.
在马瑟利纳和彼得的这个地下墓穴里面这个上面呢，你们看到的就是这样一个画。
In the center of the dome on the roof is a depiction of Christ as the Good Shepherd.
在这个圆顶的正中央画的是一个 好牧人的故事啊，那当然是基督
And around him, there are scenes from the Bible and also some saints.
在这个好牧人的这个像周围呢，是一些圣经的一些主题的一些像在周围。
This depiction of Christ as the Good Shepherd has been a favorite image of Christians from all time.
那这个好牧人的关于基督的好牧人的这个圣像是这个所有的基督徒们都最喜欢的一个圣像。
Here in the earliest icons on the catacombs, it is present, and still to this day, people love the image of Christ, the Good Shepherd.
Okay, I think the internet is a little kind of unstable. Can you repeat again?
Yes, the early Christians here at the earliest times were painting Christ as the Good Shepherd, and still today people love to paint Christ as the Good Shepherd.
OK 这个是最早的，就是一个圣像，就是关于好牧人的圣像。到今天这个很多正教徒呢还是很喜欢这个好牧人的圣像，还在画。
Next, we have another image of Christ that was painted in the catacomb of Comodilla.
OK，下一幅呢是在一个地下墓穴叫 Comodilla 的地下墓穴，画的是一幅基督的圣像。
This early image of Christ would still be recognizable by Christians today as the Lord.
这个非常早的圣像呢，是现在还能够看到哈，就是这个我们的主的一个圣像。
Even though style has developed and things have images have been refined over the years, still the core is the same. We still recognize the image of Christ from the beginning.
虽然这个绘画的方式风格产生了变化，但是它整个的这个圣像的框架我们还是能够认出来，它是这个基督的圣像。
You can see that there is the Alpha and the Omega on either side of his head, referencing the words of Christ in the Revelation, that he is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end.
你们能看到左边的阿尔法，右边的 omega 是代表希腊字母的第一个字母和最后一个字母，这回应着主基督说过的话：“我是阿尔法，我是 omega。”
You can also see the stripe on his clothing that goes over his right shoulder. This was it's an aspect of Roman clothing that was used to distinguish people of a very high rank.
在他的右肩呢有一个线条表示他穿的衣服在罗马的这个社会阶层里面是一个非常高的这个贵族的阶层才能穿的衣服。
And you will see this stripe on the shoulder for all of history up until the present day on the icon of Christ and the apostles to designate their importance.
那你看到的这些这个衣服上的这个 stripe 应该是条纹呢一直在圣像当中出现在表示这个圣人呢有着很高的这个地位。
Icons or images of the Virgin Mary are also among the earliest painted by the Christians.
那么关于上帝之母的圣像也是这个在教会历史上最早的一个圣像的表现形式。
This image that we see here is from the 2nd century and is painted in the catacomb of Priscilla.
在这个Pesena 的地下墓穴里面，我们发现了这样一幅这个圣像关于这个圣母的。
You see the Virgin Mary holding the baby Jesus, and there is a prophet pointing to her.
你们可以看到这个童女玛利亚抱着主这个基督，耶稣基督，然后有一位先知呢指出来。
It is important for us to think about the situation that the Christians who painted these images were in.
这个就是这个很重要，就是当基督徒在他们的这个崇拜地方去，在这些地方画这些就是圣像，对他们来说是很重要的。
These people were persecuted and hunted by the government, and they had to live in secrecy.
那这些在早期教会呢，他们受到这个政府的迫害，他们必须悄悄的这个崇拜。
They were worshiping in these caves under the ground.
他们在这个地下墓穴敬拜上帝。
But it was so important for them to live their faith by making images.
那么但对他们来说就是用这种像的形式来表达就是崇敬呢是很重要的。
For them, the spiritual world was very real in their everyday life. Christ and his mother, the saints and the prophets were a part of their existence.
对他们来说，这个属灵的世界是非常重要的对他们来说，这个基督、圣母玛利亚还有使徒们、圣人们对他们来说就像一个活生生的这个存在一样。
And so they made manifest these images of their spiritual reality in their physical world.
于是他们用这种像呢来表述他们就是他们这个属灵spiritual world 就是属灵世界在对于这个物理世界或者我们现世的一种表征或者一种表现，用像来表示。
This was not something that was easy for them to do. This was not something that they had support to do. It was something that they took difficulty from them, but was very important to them.
这对他们来说并不是容易的或者简单的事情这是can you repeat the later sentence?
Yes, it was. They did not have support or help to do this. It was something difficult for them, but it was important because it was a part of their faith.
OK 他们并没有画这些像呢，并没有受到任何的赞助或者支持，或者有人指使他们这样做。他们这样做仅仅是出于这个信仰的原因。
Okay, and as we move past the period of persecution into the 4th century, where Christianity becomes legal.
那我们现在到了4世纪，在那个时候呢，基督教是合法的。
This change in their society did not change their desire to paint the scenes of the gospel and Christ's image.
虽然这个他们的地位从非法变成了合法，但是呢他们对于这个就是圣人圣像的这个以像来表征的方式呢并没有退却。
This external freedom gave them the internal freedom to make their images even more beautiful and to continue to develop the sacred art.
那么这种外在的合法环境让他们这个内部做这种圣像的做法呢，就是更加的自由更加的做出更好的像来 然后来表示他们的这个对信仰的表达。
I will share just a couple of written examples that we have that testify to the continued use of icons between the catacombs and the Byzantine period.
OK，他们做的像呢，主要是圣经的故事，还有耶稣，还有圣母玛利亚。然后我将会向你展示一下，在4世纪这个教会合法化以后他们做的这个圣像与这个在地下墓穴做的圣像的一些相似的地方、联系性。
The first example is a homily that Saint Basil the Great gave in the year 373.
Year 373 OK 第一个例子呢是圣巴西尔在373年做的一次讲道。
He gave this sermon on the feast of the 40 martyrs of Sebaste.
他是14
40 martyrs of
14
Sebaste.
martyrs 在一个40个殉道者的这个纪念堂前做的一个讲道。
And while Saint Basil was talking about the 40 martyrs, he encouraged painters to paint their images.
当这个圣巴西尔在讲这个40个殉道者的时候，他鼓励这个画师呢，把他们的这个形象画下来。
He said that people would be able to understand better by looking at the image than listening to his words.
他说人们可以通过这个像呢，有一个更切实的对这些圣人的了解甚至比他的讲道还多。
So he was aware of the use of icons, and he considered that icons could preach better than words could.
那么他知道这个圣像的用途，他认为有时候圣像要比这个语言的讲道更有效做传道的工作。
The second example that I will give is a letter written around the year 400.
第二个是我要给你们展示一封书信大概是在400年的时候，公元400年。
This letter was written by Saint Nilus of Sinai, who was a disciple of Saint John Chrysostom.
Saint John Chrysostom 这封书信呢是圣尼勒在希腊的圣尼勒，然后呢他是金口约翰的门徒。
Saint Nilus wrote to a eparch named Olympiodorus. This is like a governor.
圣尼勒写的这封信是写给一个这个官员叫 Neodorus， 对，叫 Neodorus 的官员。
This eparch Olympiodorus was building a church, and Saint Nilus wrote him and told him to paint a cross on the eastern wall and to paint the scenes of the Old and New Testament on all the other walls.
OK，这个罗马官员建了一座教堂，然后圣尼勒呢写封信就告诉他，把这个十字架呢就画在这个东边，然后在西边嘛，画的就是旧约的这个景象。
So just like in the catacombs, so now in the 5th century, in the Roman Empire, it is common to cover the walls of the churches with images.
那么就像在这个地下墓穴一样，在4世纪能够公开的时候，教堂的建筑也是他们已经是一个传统，就是在教堂的墙壁上画上这个圣像。
We even have the very surprising example of a synagogue from the year 244 that archaeologists have found painted with scenes from the Old Testament.
我们甚至在这个犹太的会堂的一个会堂的古遗址上考古学家发现古遗址上 他们发现了上面有着这个旧约的一些话，在这个犹太会堂当中，在24年。
This synagogue is called the Synagogue of Duro-Evropos and was made in the year 244.
那这个会堂呢是叫做 Duro Europo，然后是在24年建成的。
This discovery greatly surprised archaeologists because the Jews have been known to be without images, to be iconoclastic.
他们考古学家很惊奇，发现因为犹太教是不接受这个画像的哈，但是他们发现了。
And so because we have this example of the Duro-Europos synagogue, we know that this tradition of the Christians was not in conflict with the Jews at the time.
那么因为这个会堂在24年的会堂有这个画呢，这说明在当时的基督徒并不是与当时的犹太教有冲突。
So now we will move into some examples of images of icons between the legalization of Christianity and iconoclasm.
那我们现在进入下一个时期，就是在这个就是教会合法化以后，到这个破坏圣像运动之前的一段历史时期。
So this from the 4th until the 7th or 8th century.
这个是从4世纪到8世纪。
We don't have a lot of examples. We don't have as many examples as we could have of icons from this era because most of them were destroyed during the 8th and 9th century during iconoclasm.
我们并没有很多4世纪到这个8世纪的圣像的例子，因为在这个8、9世纪的这个圣像破坏运动当中呢，就是被这些圣像就被除掉了被移除了。
We will discuss iconoclasm when the time comes for it, but for now, let's just look at the icons from before that period.
OK，现在让我们来看看就这段时间的圣像。Do you PPT your slide will be moved? The next one?
Yes, I just moved it.
Okay, good. So this is for that period.
Yes. So we begin to look at images from the city of Ravenna in Italy.
这个是意大利一个叫 Ravenna 的地方的一个圣像。
Ravenna was an important town for both the eastern and western halves of the Roman Empire, and even was ruled by Gothics at some point, the Ostrogoths.
那 Ravenna 是一个东西方的一个交界点，就是可能他们东西方的这个建筑教会建筑群都保留了虽然是这个 Gotham 当时是这个西罗马的异族在统治。
And each of these powers that ruled Ravenna, being the Western Empire, the Eastern Empire, and the Gothics, they all built and adorned churches in Ravenna.
那么这些无论是西罗马还是东罗马还是 Gotham 的统治者呢，他们都在这个建教堂的时候都有一个圆顶。
This image that you see here is one of the earliest mosaics in Ravenna. It was made in the 4th century.
那这个像呢是在4世纪做成的然后在 Ravenna 做成的。
This again, we see the image of Christ as the Good Shepherd.
我们再次看到这个主耶稣是好牧人的圣像在这里出现。
This mosaic is in a mausoleum for Placidia, who was the daughter of Emperor Theodosius the Great.
OK， 这个是一个叫做 Mother Lee 的人呢。Sorry, can you repeat again?
This mosaic is in a mausoleum, like a tomb,
OK，
for
嗯，
for the daughter of the Emperor Theodosius the Great.
哦，OK，说这个马赛克这个壁画呢，在这个教堂就是这个圣坛周围圆顶周围的壁画是献给当时的君王马塞多斯的女儿的。
This Emperor Theodosius the Great, whose spirit was buried here, is the great Christian emperor who was the one to finally get rid of paganism in the Roman Empire.
这个国王 Theodosius，大国王，就大的 Theodosius，他是一位非常重要的国王，因为他是确定把这个除基督教以外把其他宗教就是赶走的一个帝王。
Our next image is a church that was built in the 6th century, and the church is called Saint Apollinaire Nuovo.
在6世纪的一个叫做圣Apollonia Level 的这个教堂里面，
You can see countless depictions of martyrs. The male martyrs are on the right, the female martyrs are on the left above the arches.
你可以看到在这个教堂的岩壁两边呢，分别画的是右边的是男的这个殉道士，左边的是女的殉道士的这个圣像。
Above those martyrs, next to the windows, there are depictions of prophets and apostles.
在这个殉道者圣像的上面呢，是这个先知和使徒的圣像。
And the smallest images at the very top are scenes from the gospel.
在这个使徒和先知这种大圣像的上方的这种最上面的话呢，是这个一些新旧约的这个图景象。不是圣福音书的景象 ，Yeah。
You can see that here in the 6th century already, there is a very beautiful, a very refined style of artwork being made in the Christian churches.
你可以看到，在6世纪的时候，其实这个圣像呢就已经做的风格已经很好了，做的很精致了。
Our next image is from the church of San Vitali, which was built by the Eastern Byzantines when they controlled Ravenna.
这个是叫做圣德布扎里，它是由东罗马东罗马帝国建立的。当他们这个占据这个意大利的罗马纳的时候建的教堂。
This church is also from the 6th century, but a little bit later on in the century, and has very many magnificent, beautiful mosaics in it.
那这个应该是在6世纪末期然后建的一座教堂，然后它包含了很多非常好看的这个圣像，就是壁画它不是那画在木头上的，是壁画 mosaic 马赛克。Yeah.
This image that we see here has Christ in the middle, seated on the blue orb, which is an image of him sitting on the rule sitting on the world as ruler of the whole world.
OK，这个中间呢，这个就是做的是主耶稣基督，他下面做的这个圆球呢，就代表整个世界，表示他呢，将统领整个世界。
He holds a crown in his right hand, which he is giving to the martyr Vitale, who the church is dedicated to.
他右手拿着一个冠冕，然后给这个殉道者马塔尼那么这个这个教堂呢，就是由这个殉道者马塔尼的名建下的建立的。Yeah.
And on the Lord's left side is the bishop Ecclesias, who is handing Christ this church as an offering.
OK，you mean I see. What's the name again?
Ecclesias.
Achilles 这个国王呢是把他们手里拿着一个教堂，然后就准备献给这个基督。
And 2 archangels stand next to him.
有2位大天使在旁边。
There are more images in existence in other places in Italy, such as Rome and Milan and Castell'Esprio.
在意大利还有很多类似的这种马赛克早期的这个圣像比如说在罗马、在米兰在 Castile 这些地方。
Italy has so many of these early icons, not because they had more there than other places, but because iconoclasm did not affect Rome like it did the eastern half of the empire.
意大利有这么多这种马赛克的圣像呢，并不表示他们拥有他们的教堂拥有更多的这个圣像比东罗马帝国，而是由于这个圣像破坏运动导致东罗马帝国很多的圣像被破坏了，当时教堂，所以在意大利却保留了哈。
The images in Italy were not destroyed during the 8th and 9th century like they were in the East. But go ahead.
在8、9世纪的圣像破坏运动并没有波及到这个意大利。
But iconoclasm, the destruction of images, did finally come to the western half of the empire much later at the time of the Protestant Revolution.
不过这个圣像的运动是在这个东罗马帝国圣像破坏运动之后很久以后，就是在这个宗教改革以后才发生。
One of the biggest collections of early icons that we have in the East is at the monastery of St. Catherine in Sinai.
在西奈的圣凯瑟琳修院是保存最早的一幅关于基督的圣像。这个太有名了，very famous.
Sinai was just far enough away from the Roman Empire that its icons were not destroyed.
西奈山呢，就离这个罗马帝国足够远，所以呢，这个圣像破坏运动没有波及到这个西奈山的修院。
There are many very early icons held in Sinai which were painted in encaustic, which is pigments mixed in with beeswax.
Oh, sorry. What is encaustic means?
It's a way of painting where the pigments are mixed into beeswax.
Beeswax 就蜂蜡就是他们很多早期的圣像就是用一种 beeswax 就是蜂蜡，用一种画笔的，就是把这个圣像画出来的。
This was a very, very early technique for painting, which was replaced with egg tempera.
Egg tempera 这个是比较早期的一种绘画技巧，然后后来被这个 the egg tempera what it means egg tempera?
It means that the pigments are then mixed with the egg yolk instead of the beeswax.
So the problem is I don't understand the egg yolk. So okay, we will figure out. 反正他们用的材料不一样，之前呢是用beeswax 就是蜂蜡，然后后来呢是用一种 egg wax 来做这种颜料来画圣像。Yeah.
Okay, so this beautiful icon of Christ is one that is held in Sinai.
这个是在西奈山的这个非常美丽的圣像。
Icons with Christ in this pose are called the Pantocrator, which means the ruler of all.
这个叫做万有的统治者的圣像。
In this particular image of Christ, he has a different expression on each half of his face.
在这个圣像画当中，我们看到他们两边左右是不一样的这种风格。
One side has a stern expression, and the other side is very meek and gentle.
其中一面呢非常的严厉表现的严厉，另外一面呢表现的非常温和。
It was painted this way because at the time in the 6th century, there was a debate or some confusion about what Christ would be like at Judgment Day.
他们这样画是在6世纪的时候有一场辩论他就是说基督的圣像到底要怎么画才能够表现出来很完美的表现出来。
And so this iconographer painted this image of Christ to show that he will be both merciful but still require truth of us.
那么当时的这个圣像师傅，这幅圣像画的圣像师傅呢，他这样画是想告诉大家基督呢既是这个仁慈的，他又是这个公义的审判者。
So this is a beautiful example of how Christian theology is expressed and maintained within the images.
这是一个非常好的榜样就是说如何把这个神学的内涵在这个圣像当中展现出来。
Now we are moving into Thessalonica, Greece.
现在我们来进入这个帖撒罗尼迦希腊的帖撒罗尼迦。
This image is the inside of the rotunda of St. George.
这个是在一座教堂叫圣乔治的教堂里面在 Rotunda。Sorry, Xenia。不好意思可能 Xenia 的网络或者我的网络不是很通畅我们等一下我问一下他那个。我这边网络应该，我的声音能听到吗？大家？
能，袁老师，你的声音可以听到。
但 Xenia 声音是不是听不到了？这个
对，贾元的声音听不到了。
OK， 他可能是有点网络问题你们等一下刚才那个两种颜料我实在是没有办法我们在这个讲稿当中会详细的把这两种颜料给找出来，把它们英文词。Sorry。I think it is probably the internet unstable here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, right now it's fine. Right now it's fine. So that's fine. It's normal. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we're back.
Yeah, no problem. We come back.
Okay, so we're in the rotunda of St. George, which was built and frescoed late in the 4th century.
在4世纪末建的是教堂。
And while these walls have cracked and crumbled, we still see a very familiar scene.
尽管这些上面的这个像呢被刮掉了很多部分划走了很多，但是我们还是能够看到它的基本框架。
Christ, the ruler of all, is seen at the top of the dome with angels below him and then prophets and saints below that.
那么基督呢在这个圆顶的正中央，然后周围呢是天使，在他的再往下走的周围呢是这个先知和使徒们。
This arrangement is still followed in churches today.
那这种安排在今天的东正教的教堂还是这么安排的。
This is another church also in Thessalonica, which is the monastery of Saint David.
这个也是在帖撒罗尼迦，是这个圣大卫的修院。 里面的一个圣像。
This image shows Christ and the vision of the prophet Ezekiel.
Ezekiel prophet 是以利家吧 ？OK， 是在这个image 展现了这个在以利家的这个意象当中看到了基督的一个圣像。
It is a very rare image, a very rare scene to depict in iconography.
这个是这个圣像师傅是很少这样画的哈，这个比较少见。
So there are also more mosaics and frescoes from this period before iconoclasm in the church of Saint Demetrius in Thessaloniki.
这里还有这个圣的 Dimitri 的这个在帖撒罗尼迦的一个一些圣像在这个圣像破坏运动之前的。
All right, so now we come to the 8th and 9th centuries where there was the controversy of iconoclasm.
那我们现在进入了这个8、9世纪圣像破坏运动开始。
People who supported iconoclasm were called iconoclasts, and literally in Greek, this meant the smashers of icons.
这个支持圣像破坏运动的人呢，他们叫iconoclasm， 就是字面意思呢，就是粉碎或者摔碎圣像者。
These people considered that the images in the church were a violation of the second commandment of the Old Testament.
这些人认为教堂当中的这些像是违反了这个十诫当中的第二条诫命。
They thought that it was not possible to show holiness in images, and therefore the images were not holy.
他们认为用图像来表示这个神圣的事物是不可能的，所以呢，这些图像是不具备任何神圣性的。
And they thought that it was a confusion or a separation of the two natures in Christ to depict him as a physical man.
那么他们认为这个画基督的像呢，是把上帝的人性和神性的一种混淆或者混合。
Other people considered that it was degrading or dishonorable to use physical matter to depict the creator of the universe.
另外一些人呢，认为他们用一种物质的材料这种低贱的材料用来画这个造物主耶稣基督是一种羞辱或者说不相称。
When the Emperor Leo first instituted iconoclasm in the year 726, people reacted, they were very upset.
当这个东罗马帝王利奥在723 26 OK， so 726年开始执行这个圣像破坏运动的时候呢，普通的信徒大众非常的不满。
There was a revolt in one section of the army.
甚至在军队上就出现了一支反抗的部队。
The patriarch, who was the leader of the Christian church, spoke out against the emperor, and the emperor had him put out of his position.
那当时的大首目就站起来反对帝王的决定，然后帝王呢就派军队把他抓起来。
Monks and nuns carried their icons in procession through the streets to show that they did not agree with the emperor and his policy.
那很多的修士和修女拿着圣像到大街上，向人们宣告他们不赞成这个君王的决定。
The holy images were very important to the Christian people.
这些圣像呢，对于基督徒来说非常重要。
And for more than 100 years, while this controversy continued, the church and the Christian people continued to hold fast to the icons and defend their honor.
超过100年的时间，就是这些虔诚的基督徒们，就是他们保留这些圣像，并且他们认为这些圣像有他们自己的这种尊荣哈。
There were Christians who were martyred and who were imprisoned and who had their possessions taken away from them because of their defense of the icons.
那么有很多人因为他们这个赞同这个圣像，就被殉道了被坐监了被丢失了他们的这个职位。
Just like in the first centuries of Christianity, when there was persecution, so the people now considered that to deny the icons would be equal to denying their faith.
就像1世纪的时候，教会受到逼迫，那在那个时候呢，很多人也因为这个圣像受到逼迫，他们认为这是拒绝这个圣像，就是拒绝他们的这个信仰。
This was a theological controversy that did not stay within the realm of theologians and bishops, but your common people cared very much about this question of whether or not to use the icons.
Oh, so can you say it again? You mean the bishop?
Sure, let me start before that. In the Christian controversies of theology in the early years, those were things that were mostly discussed by bishops at the ecumenical councils. But later on, here with the icons, it was everyone.
Sorry, let me translate the former part. 就是在这个圣像破坏运动之前呢，这些关于这个圣像是否能使用平信徒是不参与的主要是主教们在探讨这个该怎么用它的用途和功用是怎样子的。Okay, continue.
Okay, but this time at the controversy around the icons, it was not just the bishops who were involved. The normal people, all of the Christians, wanted to keep their icons and got involved to defend them.
OK， 但是在这个圣像破坏运动的时候呢，不只是这个主教们他们为圣像辩护，很多的这个平信徒呢，他们也站出来为圣像辩护。
This was a difficult period for the church as it was full of conflict.
这个是教会的一段比较艰难的时光，因为充满了这种冲突。
But blessings always come out of trials.
但是这个祝福总是来自于考验。
And the blessing that came out of this period is that the theology that supports sacred images became clarified and defined.
那这个祝福的方式呢，是在当时就出现了一批神学家为这个圣像辩护，然后圣像在神学意义上呢，就被确立了，在那个时候。
As the church came to understand icons better, it also clarified the place of Christ and of all of creation and of human nature. Okay, so as the church defined its beliefs about icons, it also helped to clarify the theology of Christ and of all creation and of human nature.
当这个圣像的地位被确立以后呢，也进一步的确立了主耶稣基督的这个人性以及这个他的被造物。
We will discuss this theology in our next meeting, but for now we'll stick to the historical development.
我们在下一次的讲座当中会谈到他的这个 神学的辩论，但是今天的讲座主要是专注于这个历史背景的考量。
The icons were finally and completely restored to the church in the year 843.
在843年的时候呢，圣像的地位被一次性完全的确立了。
The Orthodox Church remembers this every year, and it is called the Triumph of Orthodoxy.
东正教每年都会庆祝这个圣像的这个确立是被称为这个东正教的胜利。
After this period, the sacred arts flourished because they had a strong theology to stand upon.
在这个圣像破坏运动以后呢，就是圣像确立以后呢，这个圣像开始复兴，因为它基建于一个非常好的神学的根基。
So we come to this mosaic is in the Temple of Hagia Sophia.
这个是在哈盖索菲亚在哈盖索菲亚这个教堂里面。
Hagia Sophia is the temple in Constantinople that for more than 1,000 years was the largest Christian church in the world.
Yeah, 哈盖索菲亚是这个是东罗马帝国的最大的一个教堂。那么我们有弟兄呢介绍了这个中世坦丁堡的这个大建筑哈。
And this temple has been considered by many to be one of the great wonders of the ancient world.
这个哈盖索菲亚大教堂呢是被确立为这个古代世界的建筑奇迹之一。
This icon of the Virgin Mary with the Christ child on her lap was installed late in the 9th century, and this image was seen as the completion of the triumph of icons.
那这个壁画呢是在9世纪建立的，是被认为是圣像的这种胜利的一个标志。
This image is on the curved, the conch of the apse high above the altar at the focal point of the church.
Focal point is in the dome or not in the dome? It's in the
not
dome.
the top dome, it's above the altar where it's rounded above the altar table.
Oh, I see. 就是在那个圣坛的这个上方的一个圣坛上方的桌子的一个圆顶上，一个小圆顶上，它不是那个大的圆顶哈。
This image is also a mosaic in Hagia Sophia, although it's from a later time, from the 12th century.
这个也是一个马赛克壁画，然后是来自于10世纪的。
In my opinion, I think this might be the most beautiful mosaic ever created.
据我看，这个是最漂亮的圣像。
As the years passed, the borders of the Roman Empire dwindled because of the Muslim conquest and the Ottomans, and the Roman Empire became less wealthy.
Yeah，随着时间的流逝呢，这个伊斯兰事件兴起，然后这个东罗马帝国呢变得没有那么富有了对 ，Yeah。
At this time, frescoes became more common than mosaics because they were more economical.
Fresco 是壁画吧？在那个时候马赛克不再流行了哈，因为普通的壁画要比这个马赛克更便宜。
This fresco that we see here is in the monastery of Posios Loukas, which was made in the 11th century.
在11世纪一个叫做Posios Loukas 的这个修院里面，Where is the location in Greece?
Yes, it's in Greece. Yes.
Okay, in Greece. Okay. 在希腊的一个修院 ，Yeah.
And this era of iconography is called the Macedonian era.
这个时候的这个圣像呢，叫做 Macedonian 时期的圣像。
After the Macedonian era, we came to the Comnenian school, the Comnenian iconography.
Communion iconography. Okay, 在
It's an era.
Okay, what is the time?
The time, the Comnenian is, so Macedonian was the 9th through the 11th century, and then Comnenian is 12th and 13th century.
Okay, Macedonian 是9到11世纪，然后 Communion 是12到14世纪。Yeah.
So this image that we see here is from a church in Nerezi, which today is not in Greece. I think it's in
Turkish?
Maybe Bulgaria or somewhere in the Balkans.
OK， 大概是在保加利亚这个地方的一个壁画。
This is an icon of Christ being taken off of the cross, which was a favorite of Byzantine iconographers.
那这个圣像画描述的是主基督从十字架上被取下来的一个情景啊，这个是拜占庭的信徒们非常喜欢的一个圣像画的类别。
You can see the Comnenian school is known for the strength of its line work, very expressive lines.
OK， 这个 Comnenian 这个圣像师傅们，他们用一种画，就是很细致的这种线条画 string。OK，yeah。
And after the Comnenian period comes the Paleologan, which is 13th or 14th to 15th century.
OK， 在 Comnenian 之后是 Paleologan 的时代，大概是13到15世纪。
Many people consider this period, the Paleologan period, to be the peak, the best iconography.
Oh, Xenia, you mean the Paleologan period? You mean it's not a kingdom transfer? It's a kind of a style of iconography. Is that right?
Well, it is both. It is both. You are correct. It is named for the reign of the emperor in that period, but
Okay.
we're talking to the style of icons that were painted in that era.
OK， 所以 Xenia 的意思呢，就是他说的这个从一个 period 到另外一个 period，它是一个罗马帝王的一个时代走向另外一个时代，但是同时呢，它的圣像风格也在发生变化。Yeah.
The Paleologan iconography is considered by many people to be the very height of iconography, the very best, the most beautiful icons.
OK，the Paleologan 时期的圣像呢，是很多人认为是是这个圣像的这个巅峰啊，是最好看的、最精致的。
This image that we see here was painted by the legendary iconographer Manuel Pencelinos.
这个圣像呢是由一个叫做传奇的圣像师傅所绘制的，叫 Xenia Franck。Oh yeah, continue.
He's considered to be the greatest iconographer of all time.
他被认为是贯穿始终的最佳的圣像师傅哈。
This image here is Christ descending into Hades at the time of his resurrection and pulling up Adam and Eve out of death.
这个圣像描绘的是当主耶稣降到阴间的时候，他伸手拉住这个亚当的手呢，从这个阴间拉出来的圣像。
You can see under his feet are the doors that kept Hades closed, and there are the locks and keys that had held people in the grave. He has broken apart the locks, and everyone is freed from death.
它在这里面你看，它两只脚下面是这个阴间的门，然后它封住阴间的门，然后它把那个钥匙打破了，这说明他是这个掌握生死之门的主。Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to make the jump to today.
OK， 我们
This
看
is
现代的圣像，对。OK，continue。
this is a church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the USA.
Petersburg 在这是在美国的
Pittsburgh.
Petersburg 在美国的一个教堂的圣像壁画。
Mhm.
Yeah.
This church was painted by the contemporary master George Cordis.
这个上面壁画是由现代的一个圣像师傅叫做Cordis 所绘制的。
I had the honor of being there in February when he finished painting the church, the areas that are still white now in this picture, he was finishing this year.
Okay, so you mean February? Is this February or last February?
Yes, this February.
This February. 所以他这个 Xenia 有幸呢跟着这个 Cordis 这个圣像师傅来参与了这个这个过程，参与了其中的过程。
I watched him paint very quickly. He has a team of 5 people, and they finished the bottom half of the church in a few weeks.
他有一个团队一起做这个壁画，大概有5个人，大概有几周的时间就把这个圣像画的这个底部就已经绘制完成。
So you can see that the tradition is still being continued. The Christ, the Pantocrator, which we can't see in this photo, is up in the dome.
Okay, I see. Yeah, you mean it's up this place? In this place?
Yes.
Yeah. So 他说这个我们看不到这个基督的圣像，因为它在这个圆顶的正上方。
The Virgin Mary with the Christ child is in the apse, just like we saw at Hagia Sophia.
那这个是这个圣母玛利亚和她的孩子主耶稣基督，然后正好在这个圣坛的内部的这个半圆形的圆顶那里。
The scenes of the gospel and the life of Christ are up above, and all of the saints were painted in these areas down below, which is just the same arrangement that we saw in the Rotunda of St. George and in these other churches.
OK，然后接下来这个呢，就是这个福音书的故事的内容。接下来将画一些另外的什么圣像。Sorry. So this part will be what content? This part after the gospel?
So up below above the Theotokos is the scenes of the life of Christ and the gospel. And down below in the white areas were images of saints.
I see. 所以在这个教堂下面呢，就是在这个福音书这个圣像的下面呢，是这个各种各个圣人的这个圣像在围绕周围，然后他们从很早的时候教堂的建筑圣像的这个配置结构就是这样子形成了。
So we see that the tradition is still alive. It is still recognizable from what was begun at the early church, even though it is being done today.
那我们可以看到这个圣像的这种在教堂的这种配置和形制，是从古至今是有延续性的。
At the end here, let us take a moment to notice that the highest point of iconography around the time of Panselinos was at the same time as the Roman Empire was falling.
那么在这个 Apollino 的时期，就是这个圣像绘画的最高峰的时期呢，同时也是这个东罗马帝国逐渐陨落的这样的一个时代。
So there were invasions, the empire was poor, and it was a very unstable and insecure time.
那这个时候，当时有这个，应该是土库曼，不是土库曼，是土耳其那个奥斯曼帝国，他们开始入侵这个东罗马帝国的时期，然后当时非常的不稳定，也不安全，在那个时代。
But it was precisely at this insecure time that the liturgical arts flourished as people found in their security and their hope in the Lord.
那么也正是在这样一个不稳定、不安全的时代呢，这个圣像的绘制制作是最达到了一个巅峰的状态，因为人们在这个里面呢找到了他们的希望。
We sense the same expression as the early Christians in the catacombs who were persecuted but poured out their souls on their churches. So the Byzantines, although the empire was falling around them, were making the spiritual world alive on the walls of their churches.
这个正像是在这个早期教会这个地下墓穴被逼迫的时期，人们把他们的这个虔诚的信仰呢，带到这个教堂里面，然后在这个15世纪的时候呢，帝国处于不稳定的时期，他们也把他们的这个 soul， 他们的生命呢，就带到了通过这个圣像带到另外一个 spiritual world 吧，算是一样。
There are many things that change in history, but there are also still many things that stay the same.
在历史上有很多事情发生变化，但也有很多事情呢一直存在。
In the early church, it was the threat of persecution. In the late Byzantine Empire, it was the threat of Muslim invasion. And now we have the globalization, and yet the faith remains the same.
那在早期教会呢受逼迫，然后到这个15世纪的时候，拜占庭帝国受到这个伊斯兰的入侵，然后现在呢，我们经历的是一个全球化的过程但是我们的信仰是一致的。
We can experience the same spirit, the same grace that is present in the images from the catacombs to the Byzantine Empire to the icon of today.
我们可以从这个地下墓穴的圣像，到这个东罗马帝国圣像，以及到我们今天的这看到圣像，能够体会到同一个圣灵的感动。
This connection with Christ and this effort to make the kingdom of heaven present is the characteristic that has followed Christianity for all time.
Sorry, can you repeat the former part?
Yes, the effort to make the spiritual world present and to remain with Christ has been the characteristic of Christianity from the beginning until now.
OK，那就是用一种表达这种属灵的世界就是在主基督里面的属灵世界的一种表征一种表现呢 ，present 就临在感是从始至终就一直在的，这是整个教会的一个特征。
So the icons, the sacred art, have been the means, the way in which Christians have made the spiritual world present in the life of the church.
Yeah， 那么剩下呢，在教会的生活当中，也是这样一个从这个属灵世界进入这个这个现世的一种表征和表现方式。
I hope that we have shown you here today that this work of art, that iconography has been inseparable from Christianity since the beginning.
Yeah，我希望这次讲座让你们知道哈，就是这个圣像的传统是对于教会来说是从刚开始就有的。
And with this context, we will be able in the future to talk more about the theology behind the icons.
那么希望通过这次历史背景的介绍，我们在下一次讲座当中，我们可以更多的谈到这个圣像神学以及它的使用。
So thank you. This is what I have for today. I'm happy to continue with questions or whatever we have time for.
OK，谢谢大家，我们今天的讲座我就暂时讲到这里。如果大家有问题的话，可以问哈。